I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Apostolic Visit.
Unity, reconciliation, and peace are possible.
Pope Leo makes a historic visit to Lebanon, and EWTN News is there. Plus,
he said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
Questionable order, why some fear the U.S. may have committed a war crime. And one down, one on the way, why the U.S. could soon see another shutdown. These stories and more right now.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, Pope Leo XIV is making history on his first apostolic visit outside Italy, preaching peace, reconciliation, and unity to religious and state leaders alike. Today is the last full day of the trip. He returns to Rome tomorrow. EWTN News' Colin Flynn reports from Beirut.
Pope Leo XIV began his second day here in Lebanon, high in the misty mountains of Anaya, where people braved the rain outside the monastery of St. Maron. They had come from across Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, hoping to witness a moment never before seen in the country's history, a pope praying at the tomb of St. Charbel. Inside the small stone grotto, a choir sang a hymn in Arabic and Syriac, and then the Holy Father knelt in silent prayer. Afterwards, speaking in French, Pope Leo entrusted Lebanon to Saint Charbel's intercession, saying, "We ask for peace, especially for this land that has endured so much, but there is no peace without the conversion of hearts." From there, the Pope traveled down the hill to the shrine of Our Lady of Lebanon, overlooking the Mediterranean. When he stepped inside the vast basilica, 2,700 bishops, priests, religious sisters, and pastoral workers erupted into applause, some even in tears. And after listening to their testimonies from those who had stayed through last year's war, the Pope praised their courage. He urged Lebanon's church to continue building peace through service, humility, and forgiveness, reminding them that, quote, "love must triumph over hatred and unity over division." The highlight of the visit came when Pope Leo presented the shrine with a golden rose, a rare papal honor and the first ever bestowed on Our Lady of Lebanon. Later in the afternoon, the Pope traveled to Martyrs Square in the center of Beirut for an ecumenical and interreligious gathering held in a marquee that was set between the Mohammed Al-Amin Mosque and the Maronite Cathedral of St. George. It was a powerful symbol of Lebanon's identity, with Muslims and Christian leaders standing side by side. There were verses from the Quran recited and readings from the Gospel. But the most joyful and emotional moment of the day was yet to come. As evening fell, Pope Leo traveled to the Maronite Patriarchate, where more than 15,000 young people had packed the hillside square. Volunteers said that many had walked for miles in the rain just to get there. And breaking with protocol, the Pope stood in his open Pope-mobile, reaching out to touch the hands of the young faithful. And after taking to the stage, he greeted them in Arabic, saying, "Peace be with you." He listened carefully to their stories of war, of unemployment, of shattered dreams, and the temptation to emigrate. Then he delivered a powerful message to the young people, telling them that there was hope, that the hope could be found within each one of them. Dream, plan, do good, he told the young people, adding that the future was already taking shape in their hands. "You have the enthusiasm to change the course of history," he said. Well, reporting tonight from Beirut in Lebanon, Colin Flynn for EWTN News.
For more, let's bring in retired diplomat and EWTN contributor Alberto Fernandez. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is Pope Leo's first apostolic journey to Turkey and Lebanon. Why were these two countries picked for the visit?
Well, I think there's a variety of elements that went in with the choice for this trip. Number one, some of the planning certainly happened or was already looked at under the pontificate of Pope Francis. So that's one part of it. There was planning for Lebanon during the time of Pope Francis. And of course, we had the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea for Turkey. So I think those two elements were in the background of why these countries were chosen, but it's very timely that they were.
In one of the most symbolic moments of his apostolic visit to Turkey, Pope Leo XIV commemorated the 1700th anniversary of the First Council of Nicaea. He spoke during an ecumenical prayer service held at the Turkish city, historically known as the birthplace of the Nicene Creed. What was the Pope's message to Christians there?
Well, of course, one of the tragedies is that there are no Christians in Nicaea. It's a town that is entirely or almost entirely Muslim. The Christians that were there at this celebration came from Istanbul, from other places. But certainly the message was one of unity, of healing the breach, of healing differences between the Western Church and the Eastern Church, the two lungs of historic Christendom. And that's a very powerful and important message.
This morning, the Pope prayed at the tomb of Saint Charbel, a Lebanese saint revered among Christians and Muslims. What do you think the long-term impact of this trip will be on Catholic-Islamic dialogue?
Well, quite frankly, I think that the trip helps in that area, but the differences in Lebanon are not so much religious as political. And Lebanon is in danger of war restarting at any moment. It could happen in the weeks after the Pope departs the country. And so his message to the people of Lebanon obviously is one of solidarity, one of sympathy for them, of identifying himself with the challenges and difficulties that they face.
The secular media highlighted the fact that Pope Leo removed his shoes but did not appear to pray in his visit to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, unlike his predecessors Popes Francis and Benedict XVI. In a statement, the Vatican press office said Pope Leo visited the mosque in a spirit of reflection and attentive listening, with deep respect for the place and for the faith of those who gather there in prayer. Can you put Pope Leo's visit to the mosque into context for us?
Well, he's not the first pope to visit the Blue Mosque. I think the secular media is making a mountain out of a molehill. There's nothing that says that a Christian has to pray in a mosque or a pope has to do this. A couple of popes have done this, but obviously this is not an ancient tradition or an ancient thing. I tell you what you can see. If you're in the Blue Mosque, you step outside of the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, and to your right is a massive structure, which is the Hagia Sophia Mosque, which of course was the Church of the Holy Wisdom for over 1,000 years, the largest church in Christendom. And when the city was conquered by the Muslims, it was turned into a mosque, and then it was turned into a museum under Ataturk. And of course, in the last few years, 5 years ago, the Erdogan government turned it back into a mosque, a symbol of kind of Islamic supremacy.
Alberto Fernandez, thanks so much for your insights on the Pope's visit.
Thank you.
President Donald Trump holds a top-level Oval Office meeting with his national security team to discuss Venezuela. Specifics not revealed, but the meeting confirmed today by the White House press secretary comes as the U.S. increases pressure on Venezuela with deadly strikes on drug vessels. It also arrives as President Trump confirms he had a phone call with the Venezuelan president, who has a multi-million-dollar U.S. bounty on his head. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Veronica, good evening to you. President Donald Trump, speaking to reporters on Air Force One, would not go into detail about that conversation he had with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He did confirm that the conversation happened, saying yes, it did. At the same time, he addressed many other questions about the South American country.
President Donald Trump posts a warning to Venezuela, writing, "To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety."
We consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They send millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country.
And when asked about potential military strikes inside Venezuela,
does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
the president also responds to military strikes targeting drug boats. Lawmakers have launched congressional reviews of the attacks. They're citing reports that Pete Hegseth issued a verbal order to kill defenseless survivors of a U.S. missile attack on a boat in the Caribbean Sea.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him. We'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike.
In the briefing room today, multiple questions on the U.S. attack. The press secretary defending the administration's actions.
President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine recently posting, Trump's illegal strikes in the Caribbean and Pacific now have a death toll of over 80. With looming threats of land strikes in Venezuela, Trump is trying to start a new, pointless, forever war. I'm doing all I can to stop him. The president was also asked why he would pardon former Honduras President Juan Orlando Hernandez, a convicted drug trafficker, sentenced last year to 45 years in U.S. prison.
The people of Honduras really thought he was set up, and it was a terrible thing. He was the president of the country, and they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was the president of the country. And they said it was a Biden administration setup, and I looked at the facts and I agreed with them.
Now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth recently posted on social media, quote, "Every trafficker we kill is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization," end quote. And President Trump says he has very little concern about how the strikes on suspected drug boats are being carried out because he says you can see the drugs right on the boats. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is seeking support from European allies while the Trump administration pushes to end the war with Russia. Earlier today, he held an hours-long meeting with President Emmanuel Macron. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is very optimistic after recent talks between U.S. officials and a Ukrainian delegation. The meeting was held yesterday in Miami. In attendance was Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He called the session useful and productive, but says more work is needed. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is traveling to Moscow today, where he is expected to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday afternoon. CNN is reporting that Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law and a participant in the Florida peace talks, is traveling to Russia alongside Witkoff. A National Guard member shot in an ambush attack in Washington, D.C. last week remains in critical condition today. Sergeant Andrew Wolf was shot last Wednesday along with Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. Sadly, Beckstrom died from her injuries. The alleged shooter, Afghan national Ramanullah Lakanwal, is now charged with first-degree murder. Investigators are seeking a motive for the attack, while the incident has prompted the Trump administration to pause all asylum decisions and suspend certain visas. Raul Reyes, an immigration attorney, joins me now to discuss. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
The White House said today that the Trump administration is actively re-examining all the Afghan nationals who entered the United States during former President Joe Biden's administration. How will this work from a legal and practical standpoint?
Well, from a practical standpoint, because this is still a developing story, it's unclear how that would work. But most likely, as I see it, if the government starts to reevaluate people's asylum grants and visas, what it will do, it will slow down our already very overburdened and dysfunctional immigration system. We have nearly 4 million cases pending in our immigration system. So when and if the government is to go back and review some of these cases that have already been adjudicated, it will just add to that backlog. On legal grounds, the president, of course, has very broad authority when it comes to immigration policy. However, he doesn't have unlimited power to reshape immigration law. That's why we've seen presidents from both parties make immigration decisions, often through executive order. It's too soon right now, I believe, to see what the Trump administration, the legal justification for some of their plans. But what I do foresee, just as we've seen in the past, is a lot of legal challenges, a lot of legal wrangling over restrictions on visas or green cards or even migration. Because again, although the president sets immigration policy, things like our visa program, refugee program, the people who enter on special immigrant visas, that's all decided by Congress. So right there, we sort of have a conflict in the making.
So from a legal perspective, how does the U.S. immigration system evaluate an applicant's intent to abide by the nation's laws, and what role does this play in eligibility for visas, residency, or citizenship?
Well, people who immigrate to the United States, especially people, say, from Afghanistan who come on these special immigrant visas, they go through extensive vetting on their background, their family members, their commitments to the American rule of law. They do biometric screenings. And what I'm not sure many people realize is not only do they go through vetting and screening in their countries of origin, that happens again in the United States. And then in the case of this individual who committed this horrific crime, he was again vetted when he applied for asylum, which was granted earlier in the year. The problem when we try to evaluate potential applicants, immigrants into the country, we can have all of this screening, we can have many procedures in place, but there still is a bit of uncertainty about someone's future behavior. When I look at this individual, I don't see so much a failure of vetting or screening. I see some type of potential individual mental health crisis that caused him to take the life, these horrific shootings. And I think going forward, the type of solutions we need to find are solutions that safeguard our national security while still upholding our global leadership as a humanitarian nation that welcomes people from all over the world, from persecution, people fleeing violence, and particularly when we talk about fleeing religious persecution. The largest group of people who receive asylum are Christians, who are very often fleeing religious persecution in countries like Iran, in Africa, and other countries in the Middle East. But I would like to see a more balanced approach. I think my sense is that's where the American public is. We know from Gallup just this past month that 79% of Americans think immigration is a good thing for the U.S.
Raul Reyes, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
With only 12 legislative days left until the Christmas break, Congress is in a December sprint. First, work continues on getting the 2026 government funding bills out of committees and onto the floor for a vote. Also, lawmakers want to address expiring Obamacare subsidies and prevent health insurance premiums to spike for millions of Americans while others lose it completely. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with the latest. Eric.
Good evening, Veronica. With regard to those 2026 government funding bills, right now only 3 of the 12 have passed. A sticking point are pro-life provisions like the Hyde Amendment, which prevent taxpayer money from being used to fund abortions. Republicans in Congress tell me that's a red line.
I always say, life is sacred, life is precious, let's protect it. And so let's make sure, obviously, the protections that have historically been part of the appropriations bills, particularly the Hyde Amendment, and we need to make sure that remains.
Republicans also want to ban funding for Planned Parenthood and other organizations that provide abortions and prohibit federal funding for transgender surgeries and other sex-changing procedures. But Democrats continue their message that abortion is health care and must be included. As for Obamacare subsidies, several bipartisan groups are working on health care reform.
A Republican-only bill is not going to work. A Democrat-only bill is not going to work. We got to work together on this. And I sort of see it clearly that we need an interim plan because we don't want to see premiums skyrocket.
Number one, extend the premium tax credits for 2 years. Number two, address some concerns about who's getting the benefit of these so we have income caps so it doesn't go to people that really don't need this type of help.
President Trump has left Congress in limbo. Earlier, he appeared to be on board announcing a framework to temporarily extend Obamacare subsidies with new eligibility restrictions, only to pull back after a mountain of GOP criticism. Plus, there was no mention of pro-life provisions from the White House. Both sides say something needs to be done.
We're going to get that vote, and then people will know exactly where the members of the Congress stand on whether these exorbitant premium increases are going to go into effect, affecting millions and millions of Americans and knocking a lot of people off of health insurance altogether.
The Senate hopes to vote next week on a health care proposal, but it's still unclear what's exactly in that bill. Another sticking point, pro-life provisions. Some Democrats are already saying that they're prepared for another government shutdown come January just to make sure that abortion care and sex change operations are included. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Holiday travel nightmare. Wicked weather disrupts traffic on the road and in the skies, and it's not over yet. Plus, there's something a little different with the White House decorations this Christmas. Devastating floods killed thousands across Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, while hundreds of others remain missing. The president of Sri Lanka called it the country's most challenging natural disaster. Sri Lanka declared a state of emergency as more than a third of the country was left without water or electricity. Torrential rain caused deadly mudslides, destroying thousands of homes. This marks the deadliest flooding in Sri Lanka since 2003. If you're heading home from your holiday weekend today, you might want to check the weather forecast first. Forecasters say a new storm system is taking shape in the Mid-South, where Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas meet. Snow is predicted in much of the northeastern U.S. this week and heavy rain in the South. So far, Flight Aware reports roughly 20,000 delays and more than 800 cancellations today.
The aviation system is really interconnected, and it can have a domino effect. So you can be outrightly impacted even without being in that area that's seeing weather.
Travel is still slow in the Midwest. More than 8 inches of snow fell at Chicago O'Hare International Airport this weekend, setting a record for the highest single-day snowfall in November at the airport. Hundreds of flights remain canceled or delayed there. While it is a time of uncertainty in the Middle East, it is also a time for hope. That's according to the current custos who oversees the Franciscan presence in the Holy Land. Here is the second part of EWTN News Vice President Matthew Bunson's interview with Father Francesco Yelpo.
So how has the ongoing regional conflict affected the custody's work, and what role do you see the Franciscans playing in promoting peace and reconciliation?
So the first major effect is really on work, on the ability to support one's family. Then there is a second consequence, which is the tension of uncertainty about the future, especially for one's children. And this is very heavy, very serious. And the custody continues first and foremost to support and sustain the salaries of all our employees, of all our Christians, and also seeks to continue the educational work that is the schools.
What gives you the most hope for the future of Christians in the Holy Land, and what would you want pilgrims and supporters around the world to understand about the situation there?
The thing that gives me the most hope is that God's timing is not our timing, that history is carried forward despite all its contradictions by someone else. So hope always arises from the fact that God is the true protagonist of history, even in storms, even when it seems that he is on the boat and sleeping. This generates hope, and we need to bear witness to this hope to our people.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, 'tis the season. The White House unveils its Christmas decorations, but this year there's something a little different. The White House unveils this year's Christmas decorations with the theme, Home is Where the Heart Is. The centerpiece is the official White House Christmas tree in the Blue Room, decorated in honor of Gold Star families. You will also notice the 120-pound gingerbread house in the state dining room with a special cutout showing the yellow oval room upstairs. But you won't find the nativity set in its normal spot in the East Room. The First Lady's office says the White House curator is renovating it, but a smaller set is on display in the grand foyer. Today is Monday, the first week of Advent. It's the first season of the liturgical year and a time to prepare ourselves for the coming of our Lord on Christmas Day. The word Advent comes from the Latin adventus, which means coming, as in the coming of Christ. And while the secular world highlights holiday shopping and festivities, Catholics are reminded that Advent is a season of waiting with prayer and reflection, preparing ourselves to welcome Christ when he arrives. From all of us here at EWTN News, we wish you a blessed and prayerful Advent season. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.